So next one is the comparison between the involute and the cycloidal gears. So in general practice, the involute gears are more commonly used as compared to cycloidal gears. So these are generally commonly used compared to the cycloidal gears. And let's see the advantages of the involute gears over cycloidal gears. So the most important advantage of the involute gears is the center distance of a pair of involute gears can be varied without changing the velocity ratio. So by not changing the velocity ratio of the two gears, we can change the center distance. That is, we are going to change the center distance of two involute gears. And this is not true for cycloidal gears, which requires exact center distance to be maintained. So for the cycloidal gears, the exact center distance needs to be referred, that is to be maintained. And in involute gears, the pressure angle is also one of the best advantage for the involute gears, in which the start of the meshing of the teeth to the end of the engagement remains constant. So the meshing from the starting to the end position remains constant in the involute gears. And for the smooth running of the gears also, we need to use the less wear of gears. So it is necessary for smooth running and less wear of gears. So for usage of the gears also, we need the involute gears, which is to be maintained from the starting position to the ending position of the machine. But in the cycloidal gears, the pressure angle is maximum at the beginning of the engagement, that is beginning of the machine, and reduces to zero at the pitch point and starts from the decreasing. So then starts the velocity ratio to be decreasing and again becomes maximum at the end of the machine. So this is for the beginning of cycloidal text with the machine. This results in smooth running of gears. So that results in the smooth running of gears for the cycloidal teeth as compared to the involute gears. The next one, the face and flank of the involute teeth are generated by a single curve, whereas in cycloidal gears, double curves are required. For the single curve, it remains the epicycloid and hypocycloid in only one curve, but in the cycloidal gears, it, it needs two curves, that is the two curves for two gears, that is epicycloid curve and the hypocycloid curve. And thus the involute teeth are easy to manufacture than the cycloidal teeth. So these compared to the in cycloidal teeth, these involute teeth are easy to manufacture, and these involve in this involute system, the basic rat has straight teeth and the same can be cut with the simple tools. So these can be cut with the simple tools also. Next, the only disadvantage of the involute teeth is that the interference occur with the pinions having smaller number of teeth. So if they are having the smaller number of teeth, so the interference is occurred in the involute gears. So that is the only disadvantage, and this may be avoided by altering the heights of addendum and dedendum positions. So this may change the addendum and dedendum positions of the mating teeth or the angle of obliquity. So that remains the changing position. Next one is the advantages of the cycloidal gears. So what are the different types of advantages in the cycloidal gears? Let's see. Since the cycloidal teeth has wider flanks, therefore the cycloidal gears are stronger than the involute gears. So generally, these cycloidal teeth have wider flanks. That is, flank of the cycloidal teeth is far larger than the involute gears. That is involute teeth. That is why it is stronger than the involute gears. And for the same pitch, due to this reason, the cycloidal teeth are preferred, especially for casted teeth. So for casting the teeth, the cycloidal gears are more preferably manufactured than the involute gears. And next, in cycloidal gears, the contact takes place between a convex flank and concave surface, whereas in involute gears, the convex surfaces are in contact. So these they are in contact. But when the convex phase flank, it has the convex surface in which these involute gears and the convex surfaces are in pure contact. And this condition results in the less wear in cycloidal gears as compared to the involute gears. So this results in the less wear in the cycloidal gears as compared to the involute gears. However, the difference in the wear is negligible. So the difference in the wearness is negligible compared to the flanks. And in cycloidal gears, the interference does not occur at all. So generally in the cycloidal gears, the interference does not occur. So the interference of gears is does not occur at that point. Though there are advantages of cycloidal gears, but they are overweighed by the greater simplicity and flexibility of the involute gears. So generally these are overcome by the flexibility of the involute gears compared to the cycloidal gears. So these are overwhelmed by the and overweighted, but they are overweighted by the greater simplicity and flexibility of the involute gears. So these involute gears are overweighted. So due to the flexibility of these, the cycloidality does not get any interference. So next one is the next topic is interference in the involute gears. So because in the cycloidal gears there is no interference occurred at the cycloidal gears. So that is why we are taking the interference in the involute gears. So the figure shows the interference in the involute gears. So here Mn is the common tangent to the base circle and KL point is the path of contact between the two mating teeth. So these are the two types of positions, that is KL and the Mn. So Mn is the common tangent. So you can see it in the picture also. So this is the position of Mn, which is the common tangent to the two gears. So this is one gear and this is the second one, that is the second gear, which is meshing at the point P. P is the center and KL is the path of contact. So this is the path of contact here, which has a tangent Mn. And a little consideration will show that if the radius of the addendum circle of pinion is increased to O1m, so that is the addendum circle of the pinion, that is this is the addendum circle of the pinion, that is O1m. So this is expanded to the O1m, and the point of contact L move from L to N. So this moves from L to N. So that moves the changing position from L to N. And when this radius is further increased, so when this radius is then increased with a point of contact, so that is with a point of contact L. So this is the L position with a point of contact which has a maximum addendum circles, which will be on the side inside of base circle of wheel and not on the involute profile of tooth on the wheel. So this is not on the involute profile of the tooth on the wheel. So that is it does not changes on the tooth on the wheel. Next, the tip of the tooth on the pinion will then undercut the tooth on the wheel at the root and remove part of the involute profile of tooth on the wheel. So this will be removed on the involute profile of the tooth on the wheel. This effect is known as interference. So this when this is going to be interfere in that part, that is known to be interference and occurs when the teeth are being cut. So these are occur being on the cut. And in brief, the phenomenon when the tip of the tooth undercuts the root on its mating gear, it is known as the interference cut. So whenever we are going to fix this phenomenon, the tip of the tooth undercuts the root on its mating gear. So this is the tip of the tooth which is undercutting the gear. That is the P position is the tip of the tooth condition which underwent the root on its mating gear. So this undercuts the root on its mating gear, which is called as the interference position. Next one, similarly, if the radius of the addendum circle of the wheel increases beyond O to M. So this is the O to M position which you have seen in the dotted lines, that is the radius of the addendum circle of the wheels, which increases from O to P to O to M. Then the tip of the tooth of the wheel causes the interference by taking the tooth on the pinion. So the points M and N are called as the interference points. So these points M and N, which is called the tangent, and the individual points of the M and N are called as interference points. And when obviously interference may be avoided if the path of the contact, that is, it does not extend the beyond the interference line, and the limiting value of the radius of the addendum circle of the pinion is O1n and of the wheel is O2m. So we have seen the first interference as O1n, and next is the O2m. And from the above discussion, we are going to conclude that interference may be avoided if the point of contact, that is the point of contact between the two teeth, is always on the involute profiles of both the teeth. So that is always on the involute profiles of both the teeth. And in other words, the interference may also be prevented for the involute teeth, because cycloidal teeth does not have any type of interference. So we need to prevent it with the involute gears also. If the addendum circles of the two mating parts, that is two mating gears, at the common tangent to the base between the point of tangency. So if we are going to cut these two tangents at the tangency, these are going to be prevented. So when the interference is just avoided, the maximum length of path of contact is the MN position. So that is the tangent position. So this is the maximum length of path of contact for any two involute gears when they are going to be meshed. So when they are going to be meshed or touched with the surface, the maximum surface of contact, that is path of contact, is MN. But when the maximum addendum circles for the pinion and wheel pass through the points of tangency. So whenever these are going to pass through the points of tangency, that is N and M respectively. So these are going to be pass the points which are through the tangency. So you can show that in the figure. You can see it in the figure. So by this, I am ending this class of the involute gears.